World War II shaped the world that we know today. It shifted power and influence, drew new borders, and led to the emergence of a new world superpowers. It was arguably one of the darkest periods of human history, time steeped in hatred, suffering, and death. Everything started as a follow-up to the First World War. Economy of many European countries was destroyed and many found themselves struggling to survive. One of those countries was Germany. Weakened by the First World War, Germany was on the brink of economic collapse and starvation. The country was in a great need for a solution, and young, power-hungry Adolf Hitler was offering just that. Adolf Hitler suffered a lot from his early life, from not being supported by his father, rejected from his dreams of becoming an artist, and finally to being badly wounded in the trenches of the Great War. Hitler had an interesting ideology at the time, and he was very well educated on the subject which he preached about. With his persistence and many skills, he soon came to power and took control over Germany in 1933. His political party, the Nazi Party, slowly took over the people too. The propaganda minister and Hitler's close friend, Joseph Goebbels, managed to convince the German people whatever Hitler wanted them to believe in. Blinded by the promises of a better tomorrow, people foolishly followed. One of the key focuses of Hitler's propaganda to make Germany strong again was to eliminate all of the factors that were weakening the German people. One of those factors were the Jews. They were to be stripped away from all of their possessions and statuses so that the rightful owners, the Germans, would prosper. Although the preaching might have started quite harmless, it ended as one of the greatest horrors of humanity: Holocaust. A program of eliminating people of not only Jewish descent, but also Slavic descent, gypsies, homosexuals, physically and mentally disabled, political opponents, and many more. But not only did Adolf Hitler want to cleanse the land of all the Jews, he also wanted to reclaim the land that was lost after the First World War and further increase state borders. On 12 March in 1938, Germany disobeyed the Treaty of Versailles and annexed Austria, joining it to the Third Reich in an operation that was known as Anschluss or joining. The troops were welcomed by cheering Austrians with Nazi salutes, Nazi flags and flowers in the most friendly way. The Reich gained millions of new loyal citizens over a night. Although the war had not started officially, the world leaders saw this as a problem and were slowly becoming anxious. They were, however, still quietly observing the situation while Hitler was both gaining power and land. The Jews started moving out of the Nazi Germany years prior to the beginning of the war. Many of them have seen the change of political climate and foreseen the danger. Following the Anschluss of Austria to Nazi Germany, the conquest and breakup of Czechoslovakia became Hitler's next ambition. He justified the invasion by the purported suffering of the ethnic Germans living in these regions. And so, with the world quietly watching, he managed to occupy Sudetenland and other Czech lands in 1939. Czechoslovakia was the last country that was peacefully acquired. Soon, a war was about to be unleashed. A war to be remembered for hundreds of years. A war that will leave its mark to the world and leave Europe in ruins and despair. On 1st September of 1939, Hitler, alongside with the USSR and Slovak Republic, invaded Poland. This was the campaign that marked the beginning of the World War II. No one was prepared for the terror of the Hitler's new army and his new method of warfare, the Blitzkrieg. Literally meaning lightning war, Blitzkrieg operated fairly simply. First, they attacked with the Air Force, bombing everything under their wings. From September 1st to 27th in 1939, German enforced Luftwaffe was bombing the capital Poland without mercy. As estimated, between 6,000 to 7,000 Polish people lost their lives in the bombing of the Warsaw. After heavy bombardment, like lightning, armored vehicles reached the defensive lines. After the Polish resistance was totally crushed, the German troops marched in and destroyed whatever was left. There are many records and images proving Polish resistance truly fought bravely. As William Shirer wrote in The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, horses against tanks, the cavalry long lance against a tank long cannon. Brave and valiant and foolhardy though they were, the Poles were simply overwhelmed by the German onslaught. From the winged hussars who salvaged the glory of Vienna in 1529 to the stateless patriots of Napoleon's Polish legions, they remained the core of the Polish army well into the first quarter of the 20th century. The myth about Poles charging straight into the German tanks was born on 1st September in 1939. In one of the very first engagements of the invasion of Poland, charge at Krojanty. Battle-hardened cavalry officer and veteran Colonel Kazimir Mastares was no fool, and seeing a larger force of German troops camped in the forest near the Pomeranian village of Krojanty, Mazdaler knew surprise was his only edge. The Polish cavalry charge stopped the German pursuit for the day and was a success in principle. The enemy advance was slowed and the panicked infantry were scattered. The Germans then invited neutral Italian journalists to tour the battlefield, festooned with dead horses and slaughtered Uhlans. They used the idea that the foolish Poles had suicidally charged into the threads of the German tanks with lances and sabers. This cruel myth then became a part of German propaganda, but it was a lie. The Polish army knew better than to charge tanks with lances and sabers, and from 1937 the standard weapon of Polish cavalrymen was anti-tank gun, anti-aircraft gun or anti-tank rifle. The role of the Uhlans was that of rapid and mobile reaction force, similar to the Roman shock cavalry. It was nothing foolish about that, but the military force of Germany was simply too overwhelming. General Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt of Army Group South even wrote about Polish heroism in his report. The Polish cavalry attacked heroically. In general, the bravery and heroism of the Polish army merits great respect, but the higher command was not equal to the demands of the situation. Hundreds upon hundreds have died defending their country, but this was only the beginning of terror Polish people have yet to endure. A few weeks later, England and France declared the war on Germany, and the war for the dominion of Europe officially started.